Hello, my name is Jacob Thompson. This is my multimedia project. Um, for me, I decided to focus on a deeper dive into historical education, um, specifically challenging the classic conservative form of history education as opposed to a more progressive one. Um, and I think critical history is one of the best ways to do that. Critical history is a more holistic approach to learning history in a way that accounts for social, racial, sexuality, and gender differences. You may say, why critical history? Um, I think it's important that we look at historical events from all perspectives. I, as a white male, might see something completely different um, than someone who is, say, a black female, especially if we're looking at some of America's history. I think those differences are really going to shine. Um, I think critical history and teachers both have a role in curriculum regarding this. Um, I think that a good way to break it down is the three types of curriculum for explicit things that are covered in the curriculum. I think it's important to ask why. Why are we covering this? Why is this important for us to learn? Um, and then implicit, I think it's important to talk about it with the students. Um, for implicit, it's important to talk about why. What is the curriculum trying to make you think about something? So if we're only talking about, good things about a certain person or party or the United States, for example, ignoring some of the bad things, what is that curriculum trying to make you think about? And I don't think you can have a good understanding of history if you don't think about that, if you don't think about the motivations. Um, And I think the most important one is definitely going to be null history regarding critical history. Um, what isn't covered and why isn't it covered? Like growing up, learning about Thanksgiving, for example, I think this is a perfect example of null history. We only ever really focused on the English settlers side, you know, and it was happy and everything like that. But we don't talk about the real story of Thanksgiving, all of the diseases that were spread across it, and how it may not have been as happy and coming together as we're led to believe. So things like that are major targets of null history, um, and to me, the a thing from the Stanley piece is really good about the teacher's role in curriculum, where it says education must assume an increasing responsibility for participation in projecting ideas of social change and taking part in their execution in order to be educated with particular attention to more just, open, and democratic society. So if we're just covering the basics of history, if we're just talking, okay, Jim Crow ended here, but we don't talk about the actual details of it, and we don't talk about why and the problems that are still impacting it today, then people aren't going to have a true understanding of that history. And I think that is a huge part of the teacher's role in fulfilling the elements of the curriculum. I mean, uh, critical history is, I think, one of the more important ones, but I think it's the critical studies of looking at how gender, race, and sexuality affect all of the elements of social studies is important. For example, you could use the use of feminist economics instead of neoclassical economics when discussing it, or focusing on human geography, how people move and the effects of them moving, instead of just saying, you know, here is a mountain, here is a plateau. And lastly, the racial and gender effects on civil rights, voting, and how even today, because of past elements of our society, it still affects them. And that's the end.